Hello, Connecticut, and welcome to the Paid Leave Podcast. The title basically says it all. I'm Nancy Barrow, and I will be delving into this new state program and how it can help you and your family. This podcast will give you information you should know about Connecticut paid leave and maybe just a little bit more. Connecticut paid leave brings peace of mind to your home, family, and workplace. Welcome to the Paid Leave Podcast. October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and currently there are more than 3.8 million women who are living with or beyond breast cancer in the United States. And it's estimated that 43,700 deaths from breast cancer in women and men will happen in the country this year in 2023. Connecticut paid leave is a state law that went into effect in 2019 by Governor Ned Lamont. And we offer eligible workers in Connecticut up to 12 weeks of income replacement to take care of your own serious health condition or that of a loved one who has a serious health condition. With caregiver leave, we have a really broad definition of family. It is related by affinity, which could mean that a neighbor or a coworker or a best friend that is like family can actually be a caregiver to you in this difficult time. This would apply to breast cancer patients, of course, and their caregivers. There are many ways that you can take leave, whether you do all 12 weeks in a row, or you need it intermittently as you're getting treatments, or at a reduced schedule. So you can work and take time for maybe mental health appointments or doctor's appointments. And you have a year to use the 12 weeks, so it offers flexibility for patients and caregivers. Today, we're thinking pink. We will talk about breast cancer, surviving breast cancer, and some of the stats and how you can get involved in the fight against breast cancer. Joining me is Nicole Marohn, the State Executive Director of the New England branch of Susan G. Komen. It's an organization that, of course, has been around for years. And also joining the podcast is a brave and wonderful survivor, Bianca, who is going to tell us her story. Thank you both for being on the podcast.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
So, Nicole, let's just begin with you as I kind of discussed what Connecticut paid leave is all about. With the 12 weeks of income replacement for eligible patients and caregivers, how does that help the well-being of patients, do you think?
Absolutely. It helps tremendously. Breast cancer affects everyone differently, and treatments differ from patient to patient. We hear from people every day who cannot afford to miss work because they need the money to live, but they also struggle to work because they are recovering from surgery or chemotherapy or must have radiation every day, and that can interfere with work schedules.
Yeah.
Flexibility and paid time off offers patients the time to heal from what they're going through without the financial worry.
Yeah.
It takes a weight off of them so they can focus on overcoming their breast cancer.
Yeah, I think that's so important. And I don't know if this happened to you, Bianca, but did you have a really good support system? Did you have a lot of people who were taking you to treatments, or what is your story?
Oh, absolutely. Well, I was diagnosed 2 days before my 30th birthday. This year was 6 years. I was cancer-free. And yes, I did. I had a lot of friends and family that were supporting me, my husband, my mom and my dad. And then I actually have a 2-year-old son. And so that was all hard for me. You know, I still was working. I had to be a mom. I had to be a wife, and a friend. And I had to put all that on hold. So to do my aggressive treatments. And I was diagnosed with invasive ductal carcinoma, breast cancer, and I found it myself through self-discovery. And unfortunately, it was ER and PR positive, so it was hormone-driven. And they had to do several surgeries to remove the cancer. I had to have a mastectomy, double mastectomy for prevention. And I also had to have aggressive chemo, radiation, and I also had to later on have a hysterectomy, a total hysterectomy. So many surgeries, reconstruction, the whole bit. But yeah, I needed the help. I needed the support to be able to rest, to be able to eat, to take care of my child. And I took about 9 months off of work.
And your work was really good with that.
They were.
That's
yeah.
amazing that you had a good company, because a lot of people don't. And if you're working several jobs, that's where Connecticut paid leave really can help.
Right.
You know, it can really, and even with your husband, like it can help with caregivers. When you get a diagnosis like that and you're 30 years old, were you in fight or fright mode when someone said, "Hey, you have breast cancer"?
Oh, absolutely fright at first. I was devastated. I'm like, oh my God, am I going to die? Like this is crazy. I'm only 30 years old. But in that moment, I needed to advocate for myself. And I'm like, okay, well, no, I have to live for my 2-year-old. I have to live for my husband. I have to, most importantly, live for myself. So yeah, I had to do whatever needed to be done.
A diagnosis at 30 is really young. But now that you're at 6 years, because I always hear like the 5-year mark, once you hit 5 years, like recurrence doesn't usually happen.
Yeah, 5-year mark is definitely the sort of the line in the sand when typically treatments sort of wane, or you sort of feel like, okay, I've gotten through the large part of it. What I've heard, and maybe Bianca can speak to this, is you hit the 5-year mark, but you're always looking over your shoulder.
And what is the routine now for you?
I'm still seeing my doctors on a 6-month basis. My oncologist I see every year, but I'm actually still on hormone therapy. So they actually have me on this pill for 10 years. So I just hit the 5-year mark, but I still have another 5 years to go.
So what is that? Yeah. Is that tamoxifen, or what are you on?
I'm on anastrozole.
There are many different sort of medications that have come out. Tamoxifen is definitely one that is still being used and actually has been very successful in so many patients. But since then, there have been other therapies that have come along, as well as treating the breast cancer for the patient.
And it's wonderful to know the leaps and bounds they've made in being able to talk about different types of breast cancer, because there's so many different types of breast cancer now.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they always made sure to let me know that, you may be diagnosed with this, but your symptoms and the way that you react to medication is completely different. I breeze through chemo, whereas some women can't, and it's very difficult for them. I breeze through radiation, but, it may be hard on others that take radiation for longer periods of time. The medication and the treatment in and of itself is a mental war.
It is a mental war.
Mental war as well as a physical war. You're trying to balance all of it all at the same time. And in a quick, very fast pace, every day you're going in for radiation for 5-10 minutes, and then you go in and again. So it's hard, and it's exhausting, the signs and symptoms of the treatment in and of itself. It's hard to kind of bear with. And I still feel symptoms today, and it's been 6 years, so.
What do you feel today?
Fatigue most days, tiredness, from my medication, aches and pains in my joints, because I had a hysterectomy. Now I'm up to getting osteoporosis. So I have to make sure I take, calcium supplements, and I have to make sure to do this and, eat certain things. And, chemo sometimes messes with other parts of your body. So now I've been having like kidney issues, but, just being an advocate for yourself and just not being able to, being able to speak to how you feel to your doctors and being vulnerable in that sense is going to help you all the more. So anytime I feel a new symptom, I'm like, okay, well, hey doc, I feel this, like, is this related, or is this just in my mind?
Yeah. It is a mind game. Yeah. It really is how mentally strong you are. Did you go to counseling? Did they offer like counseling to you?
So at first, when I was going through the treatments, it was just so overwhelming that I didn't even want to go to treatments or even just group therapies. UConn did offer, and Hartford Healthcare did offer groups, but I was kind of like checked out, and I didn't want like to
anything
be around
else.
Oh yeah, no. And I didn't want to be around people, and I felt like it was like I was going to get that sympathy, if you will, like, oh, that's that girl that had cancer, and I was bald. I didn't, the way that I looked, I didn't feel confident in that time. So I didn't want anything to do with anything. I just wanted to go to my doctor's appointments, take care of my treatments, go home, and then just kind of be around my loved ones. But during 2020, when we were all at home, I was like, okay, I have some issues and some things that I really need to work on.
Yeah.
And it's really starting to sink in a bit. And so I did. I sought out treatment. I found a wonderful therapist, and to this day, we talk about, some of the hurdles that I go through, and some things that are triggers for me. And I've made great strides, as far as like my mental health is concerned. And I journal a lot. I do things that kind of like help me get through some things, as a mom, as a wife, as, someone that's constantly in the doctors or just, going
you
through
got a lot of
my
hats on.
I have a lot that's going on, and it's hard to find that balance.
Well, I'm thankful that you did.
Yeah.
Because I really feel like that is you investing in you. And the other good thing is that Connecticut Paid Leave also covers mental health, appointments and all of that as well. So it's comforting to know that if you ever needed that, this is here for you.
Absolutely.
So if you needed to take some time off and do that, I know you have a good company that does that for you. But it's nice to know that it's here for people. Do you suggest at Komen that people do check in with their mental health when they're going through such a diagnosis?
Yeah, no, it's a lot. It's a lot when you're going through it. And, part of what Komen has in our patient care center is also patient navigators. And that's something that we have as a virtual option, because a lot of people do give up on their breast cancer journey just because it's so overwhelming. If you speak English, it's confusing, let alone if you don't speak English. I don't know how you make it through.
Yeah.
But it's a lot. It's a lot personally to deal with. And then when you have other folks around, not only that, but there's also caregivers. Caregivers take on a lot emotionally. And so being able to know or be able to have that support, that's part of our patient care center, as well as offering, access to where to get psychosocial support.
Yeah.
It's really important. And, there's still a stigma around breast cancer. And so people feel that when you're diagnosed. And part of it is telling your story. Now, whether it's in a group setting or whether it's to a therapist, going through that and being able to heal by sharing your emotions and what you're going through and your concerns is really, really important. Your mental health, I can't say they're directly related to your physical health, but your mental health really can affect sort of where you are and going in your journey, and keeping that positive attitude and keeping up on, mentally feeling okay is really a big part of the journey.
I can definitely attest to that. A lot of my doctors were in shock on my results and just, my progress through my treatment. And I always kept it positive. I always made sure to kind of like keep that stride of hope and, I got this, I'm gonna get through this. And, that strength that we don't know where it comes from, but it shows up in those moments. And it really helped me to get good treatment, good results, good recovery from everything that I went through.
Did you have people who went into appointments with you?
I did. I had my mom for some appointments, and I also had my husband come in with me for some appointments. I actually found a friend of mine that went through cancer. She had Hodgkin's lymphoma cancer, and she would show up to my appointments with me, and she would ask questions because she knew what she was going through and what she had experienced, and she would actually help me. And she was I say to her to this day, she was my guardian angel, because I had no idea going into those appointments.
What to ask.
Yeah, they throw all this jargon at you. They try to explain this and that, and it's like you don't even know what's going on. And sometimes your head and your mind just goes to the worst case scenario, and sometimes it's not even that. So,
and as a Black woman, I know that a lot of Black women don't go and do breast screenings, and it's amazing that you found it on your own. That's how my mom found hers, in the shower.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about your outcome. Like, do you talk to your community, or because it's hard. It's really hard. There's a lot of people who don't have mistrust about the medical system.
Oh, I absolutely do. I always tell everyone feel it on the first. So every first of the month, I kind of like share it on my social media platforms, Instagram, Facebook. I raise awareness every year for breast cancer walks. I try to raise funds just so that way it can go back into the community. I definitely benefited from a lot of scholarships. There was a time where when I was going through chemo, I was given Christmas gifts and, benefits that you go through, so that way you don't have to worry about it or stress it. And at the end of the day, I always told myself, if I can just help one person, then this whole journey was totally worth it. And, just being so open and vulnerable. Not everyone can do that.
Yeah.
And I understand. But for me, it kind of helped in my own healing journey just to help someone and just to kind of speak out and say, okay, well, this is what I went through. How can I help you? And, if you have any questions, send me a message.
Have people messaged you?
Yeah, absolutely. All the time.
Really?
All the time.
That's so encouraging.
Thank you.
I find. How important are breast screenings?
Breast screenings are extremely important. Of course, catching, a breast cancer at a very early stage can dictate your outcomes, better outcomes, so to speak. When we've done focus groups in the past is, we've got other things going on. We've got, we've got kids soccer. We've got them, go to this event. We got to go to that. And it just is, it's another thing. And,
is baselines 40 now?
Yes, that's the recommended 40. Mm-hmm. However, if you have a history or you have any questions, you should definitely talk to your physician about those concerns because we do see it, of course, like Bianca, at a younger age as well. So making sure that you really know what is your normal and do not ignore the signs.
Are there free mammograms that are available to the underserved communities?
Yes, absolutely. Komen is, of course, here to support in any way between screening, diagnostics. Sometimes insurance companies don't cover that if you have insurance. But Komen's Health Equity Initiative works to meet everyone where they are and empower them to take control of their health. So we're involved in communities across the country and have conversations in trusted ways in native languages and making sure that they, that women feel empowered. I do want to bring up as well, because you mentioned as well the Black population. Black women are 40% higher to have a higher rate of death than their white counterparts. And among Latinas, breast cancer is the most common form of breast cancer. So we want to make sure that just because you do not have the means doesn't mean that you don't have the access.
Right.
It shouldn't determine where you live is what sort of access you should have. So making sure that we are here to support that, meeting them where they are, as well. We have a Komen Worship in Pink program that partners with churches and educates congregations, having breast health sort of folks go out and speak to congregations. So making sure we're getting into the communities, because not every community, sometimes there is a stigma within the community. And, in certain communities, taking off your clothes and being seen by a doctor is not acceptable within those communities. So making sure that we're meeting them where they are and that they understand the importance of getting screening, and there shouldn't be a barrier just because you can't afford it.
So since 1982, Komen funded like $1.1 billion in research and I think $2.3 billion in education. Do you feel that education is the key to treatments and a better diagnosis for women and men?
Yes, absolutely. And that's sort of the DNA of what makes Komen is, as an organization, when we were, sort of founded back in the early 80s. And I always like to say Susan G. Komen was an actual person.
Yes, she was. Susan Goodman.
Yes.
Komen, yeah.
Yes. And she unfortunately passed away from breast cancer. And, she had said to her sister, it's a miserable experience having breast cancer. You basically are in a waiting room to die. And so you need to promise me that you'll make a change. And so as part of that, though, the research is a very big portion of what we do. We are the second largest funder of research behind the U.S. government for breast cancer. We also will always have this patient focus and making sure that we are really focused on being there for each one of, the breast cancer women and men that are going through their journey, and making sure that we are very much focused on giving them what they need to do, being aware of their breast cancer journey, as well as, like I said, everyone else that's sort of affected by it.
How do guys find that? Because there isn't a mammogram. There isn't like a baseline screening for men.
No, there isn't, unfortunately. And believe it or not, men have breast tissue.
Yeah,
I hate to, I hate to break it to you, but that's what it is. It does affect men with a lower percentage. However, usually it's very aggressive by the time a man finds it, because it does have to become a lump. And usually at that, they are very much dismissed in certain ways. So it tends to be more aggressive by the time that it is discovered. But again, knowing your health, knowing what's right, if something doesn't feel right in your chest, see your doctor, whether it's breast cancer or something else. Put your mind at ease, because like I said, the earlier that you catch it, the earlier that you see it on a mammogram, it doesn't have to be, this go to the extremes. It actually, there are many, many women that catch it very, very early on and continue on to have amazing lives.
Long, long lives. Tell me what Komen does for women who are diagnosed and they come to you.
Absolutely. So first off, a lot of people go to our website first, Komen.org, Komen.org. There is a lot of information. In fact, it can be quite overwhelming, I believe, with the amount of information, but there is information there. We also have a patient care center. It is virtual, but our helpline is sort of the first go-to for a lot of women going through breast cancer or questions. And our helpline can answer anything from what is breast cancer or help, I don't know where to go, or, like I said, psychosocial support. I have a spouse that's going through this, or I have, a sister or a mother. So we have our helpline. We have, of course, the financial assistance portion that we talked a little bit about, as well as our patient navigation. So we have plenty of resources. And so we are able to work throughout the entire United States, throughout the entire New England. So whether you are in an urban area, a suburban, or rural area, all of these resources are available to you. We are here to answer those questions. We never want someone to get a diagnosis and feel that they are lost or they are alone, because they are not. We are here to make sure that we help them because we want to have less deaths, and we want to make sure that people make it through their breast cancer journey.
Yeah. Bianca, how did you get involved with Komen?
It's funny that you say that. Actually, my neighbor, Meg Stobley, she is part of Komen New England. She's one of the coordinators and managers. And as I was moving into my new house, we were just having conversation, and it just kind of came up, and I said, "Wait, you work for Komen?" And she's like, "Yeah, I work for Komen." And I'm like, "Well, I'm a breast cancer survivor." And she's like, "Shut up, no way." And so since then, she was able to kind of help me get involved with, going to certain events and raising funds and starting my own walk, and just being able to advocate for breast cancer, and just given the space and the platform just to be here with you guys today. And so for me, that relationship that I've built with her has been so amazing.
And immunotherapy, gene therapy, those are all pretty cutting edge stuff where you can use your own body to help heal your own body, which I find fascinating. Is that something that you guys are doing a lot of research on?
Yeah, so our research varies. We have research that's focused sort of, on certain populations, on certain sort of environmental factors. But a large part of our research right now is very focused on metastatic breast cancer. That is the breast cancer that you die from once you get to stage 4 metastatic and it's gone beyond the breast. So we want to stop that first. That's what our focus is. Of course, the other, 30% of our research of the billions that we spend is focused on other therapies, but we really need to stop the deaths associated with breast cancer. and catch it early and making sure right.
Are you doing advocacy with like the state legislatures? Are you trying to pass any bills? Are you trying to do any of that stuff for?
Yeah. So Komen also has an arm that we work on that's advocacy. And so we are constantly advocating for breast health as well as joining other cancer organizations. So it's not necessarily breast cancer because there are certain bills that, having combined voices, we have bigger voices. So we were just down in Washington, D.C. in early June, and I believe we had over 300 people attend, just going in and talking to each legislator, as well as we have different initiatives that we are constantly working at within each state even here in New England. So all 6 states, we have some sort of bill or initiative that we're working on to pass.
Bianca, what advice would you give someone who might be recently diagnosed with breast cancer?
I would say 1,000% make sure that you have the right team of physicians, doctors, social workers, family support. And if you don't have family support, reach out. There's thousands of survivors that are willing to help out. Like in my case, I had a friend that advocated with me and went to my doctor's appointments. Speak up. You're not alone. I think that hits everything.
What are your hopes for October and Breast Cancer Awareness Month? What do you hope to come out of this?
For us, it's always raising awareness. I wish every month was October.
Right.
For me, working at Komen, it is. We never stop. However, October is an amazing opportunity to raise awareness, get that mammogram. If you've been pushing it off, do it. Know you're normal. Of course, raising funds is really, really important for us, but raising awareness is even more important. Like I said, if we can stop this disease, if we could end breast cancer forever, if I'm out of a job, I'm a happy person, let me tell you.
I think a lot of people would feel the same way. not wanting you to lose your job, but. And what about you, Bianca?
I think I can agree with Nicole. I think it's just getting the word out there, motivating and encouraging others that, have been diagnosed or know someone that has been diagnosed or even just dealt with it as a caregiver. Just knowing that you're not alone, that, this fight is every day. It's not just in October. It's every day. I was diagnosed, like I said, in May, in the spring, 2 days before my 30th birthday. So it can happen to 1 out of 8 women here in Connecticut. So just getting the word out, understanding that, this is real and it's happening and we just have to do our part.
Nicole Marohn, the Executive State Director of the New England chapter of Komen, and brave and wonderful, really great vibed survivor, Bianca. Thank you for sharing your story and continued good health to you.
Thank you.
Thank you both for being on the podcast.
Thank you so much.
For information about Komen, you can go to Komen.org. The toll-free helpline is 1-877-GO-KOMEN. That's Komen. And it connects callers to services that they may need. For more information about Connecticut paid leave for breast cancer patients and caregivers, please go to ctpaidleave.org. This has been another edition of the Paid Leave Podcast. Please like and subscribe so you'll be notified about new podcasts that become available. Connecticut Paid Leave is a public act with a personal purpose. I'm Nancy Barrow, and thanks for listening.